Hi friends. So join me today as I read Psalms 3. Now I have read Psalms 3 a few times already, and I did listen to some commentaries just to kind of get some other ideas as to what is actually being said here. And so the gist of it is, it starts off, "Save me, oh my God." And it's David crying out to God because his son Absalom is trying to kill him. And that's obviously a horrible, horrible place to be. And so David is crying out, asking for God's help because he feels like everybody's against him. It even says here, "Thousands against me." So I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then I'm going to give a little story of something that happened decades ago, and I know God was in that story. And knowing that, looking back on that, as well as other things, I know that God has been leading the way in my life, and that brings me comfort and hope today. So, Psalms 3, a psalm of David when he fled from Absalom, his son. O Lord, how many are my foes? Many are rising against me. Many are saying of my soul, there is no salvation for him in God. But you, O Lord, are a shield about me, my glory and the lifter of my head. I cried aloud to the Lord, and he answered me from his holy hill. I lay down and slept. I woke again, for the Lord sustained me. And that's really important too, when we do go through trials, to be able to still have that peace of mind, to be able to sleep. I'm sure we've all been there. You go to bed, you finally get to sleep, and you wake up at that 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock, and you just lay there and think. And I have done that thousands of times in my life. I am proud to say, happy to say, that I rarely do that anymore. I have my faith and my trust in God and what He's doing in my life has become so prominent that fortunately, I can go to sleep and stay asleep and not let fears and worries take control. So back to 6, I will not be afraid of many thousands of people who have set themselves against me all around. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God, for you strike all my enemies on the cheek. You break the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Your blessing be on your people. So a beautiful prayer from David to God. And the story that I want to tell about is about 3 decades ago. I was a single parent of 3 children under 5. And I was in a situation that I was staying with some people, and that situation became toxic. And I needed to get out of there fairly quickly. And I had no money. I was on welfare, and my oldest started kindergarten. And so that morning I put my kids in daycare and I drove to the subsidy office. I filled out the intake form to see if I could qualify to get into subsidized housing for parents, and the intake worker said, "I'm sorry, there's about 300 people ahead of you." I felt my situation felt very hopeless right there. And she said, "Well, go up the street. There's a rental agency. Go see what they have." So I did go up the street, and everything was way too expensive. I could not have afforded full rent on my own. So when I went back to walk back about an hour later to the rental agency, there was a little note on my vehicle. I had left my vehicle in front of the office window, and they would have saw that. And there was the note on my window saying, "Jackie, come back in." So I came back in, and the lady came out and said, "You're not going to believe this. We have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhouse across from a park, and if you want it, it's yours today." And I said, like, "How is that possible? There's 300 people ahead of me." And she said, "You ended up qualifying, and this place, somebody was going to take it, and they have stepped away from taking it. So it's yours." And I walked out with keys that day to this new townhouse that I could move into with my children. And at the time, obviously, I was grateful, but it's not until years and years later that I've looked back on my life and I see all the ways God has been there. that God has directed my step. And it's those memories that I have. And now as I read the Bible and I see the stories in the Bible of also that where God has helped people before us, because that's what these stories are. These are real people who had real problems just like us. And the only thing that's changed is the year it happened, more or less. And looking back at others' situations, at our own situations where God has been with us, brings us hope, gives us something we can hold on to. And because, you know, we have to be able to hold on to something to get through the days that we are living in. That is a reality. And one day this will be over and we'll be in a new system. But right now we have to do the best we can to cope with what's happening, take it one day at a time, and trust in God's word. Blessings, my friend.